Hello, everyone. Thank y'all for showing up for the show tonight. I have my special guest, Al Santariga with me. And Al is not brand new to the show. He's been on the show. He's been a friend of mine in the cryptid community for quite a while when I was first doing my shows in the group. And now that I'm on YouTube, and this is actually his second time being on the show since I've been on YouTube, but I got Al back again tonight. Al, basically, go ahead and give everybody an introduction, tell everybody who you are and how you got into the cryptid field, all that good stuff, everything that you do. Just a brief bio.
Brief bio. My name is Al Santariga. I'm the founder of the Bronxville Paranormal Society, founder of the New York State Sasquatch Organization, founder of the New York State UFO Project, founder of the New York State Dogman Project, Region 3 director for the North American Dogman Project. I just recently been given that position by Jody, so I thank him very much for that. And I'm a member of MUFON New York State chapter, so I wear a lot of different hats depending on what I'm investigating on any particular day time.
All right. So, tonight we're going to talk about your most recent investigations that you've been on. Would you want? Feel free to go straight into that as much as you would like to share with us as far as your research and what you've encountered lately.
Okay, so I've teamed up with Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch. Chris is a Bigfoot researcher from Connecticut, and he researches the Berkshire Mountains. And he was going to come down and visit my sacred site here in New York, and I was going to go up to visit his sacred site, or whatever he calls it, the meadow, or whatever he calls it in Connecticut. So, but before this started, Chris is very in tune with the Sasquatch people. He used to be a flesh and blooder. He's just coming over to the other side now, where he believes they're more than that. He's not very familiar with the paranormal side of things, so he wanted me to, to teach him more about the paranormal side of the cryptid field. So I said, okay, no problem. Look, I'm 61 years old. I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this. I figured Chris is an honest guy. He's a good guy. He's just starting to get into like the gadgets and everything that everybody's using now, which I've been using since forever. And when I go out, I do about 250 environmental readings each time I go out. And I do the 250 readings about 4 or 5 times a night, because I'm always doing rituals to change the energy of the place. So I gotta see what one thing affects the energy, how one thing affects it compared to the other. And so we decided we were going to go out in June. He's been having telepathic communications with his clan in Connecticut, which is very, very cool. I never had any telepathic communications with anybody. And then one day I had what I thought was a dream, where I was in a cabin in the middle of the woods, a cabin that was very unfamiliar to me, woods that were very unfamiliar to me, was laying on a bed, but I was out of my body. And I was standing by the foot of the bed looking at me sleeping, when the Sasquatch appears in the window, and it looks in, and it's telling me via telecommunications, it's telling me, telepathic communication, it's telling me that its name was Hyaneth. She was the alpha female of my clan, and she's excited that I'm going back to the sacred site because I haven't been there in 2 years. I've been researching other sites, and she's excited to meet Chris Reinhardt. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? How is this? How does my Sasquatch know about Chris's Sasquatch? Chris is like an hour and a half away from me. So I call Robin, and I say, Robin, I don't know if this was a dream or, and she says, no, you had telepathic communications. And she tuned into Hyaneth, and she said, yeah, Hyaneth has been speaking with his clan in Connecticut telepathically. They're all connected telepathically. They could talk to one another. And so they're looking forward to meeting Chris. So I'm like, okay, very cool. So we picked a date in June. We were going to go out. And Chris started telling me about he was in deep meditation when he seen a white Sasquatch looking at him from the tree line. And for some reason, shook him out of his meditation. And I asked Chris, I said, why did this white Sasquatch shake you out of this meditation? And he said, oh, it just did. But I felt like he wasn't being honest with me, wasn't telling me everything. So I just let it go because I figured he wasn't ready to disclose more. At the same time, my psychic in Arkansas calls me up and says, I just had a visitation by a giant white Sasquatch. He's 10 to 12 feet tall. He's like 2,000 pounds. And he says he's a king shaman and he's a healer. And he's going to come down to the sacred site when you and Chris are there. And he's going to appear to you guys. And she said, Al, treat this guy with utmost respect because he demands respect. So I was like, oh, absolutely, without a doubt, and then she says, oh, by the way, he's going to come visit you. So I'm laughing. I was like, okay, if he comes visit me, never thinking that anything is going to come visit me. And one night I'm sleeping and I have this image of this giant white Sasquatch. And in my dream, Chris and I are at the sacred site. And let me describe the sacred site. It's a high plateau with giant megalithic stones set up in a circle with hundreds of stones on top of each of the megalithic stones with arches and X and bends and breaks and twists and just all kinds of stuff. To the west is a high ridge. Beyond that ridge is their home range. To the north is a stone wall that runs along the back of the sacred site. So in my vision, Chris and I are sitting at the sacred site and fog is rolling over the ridge. Now, I've been there a million times. It's never been foggy. I've never seen fog there. But fog is rolling over the ridge. And out of the fog appears this giant white Sasquatch. And even though Chris and I are sitting there looking at it, I'm out of my body behind it. I'm looking at it from behind. So I'm seeing it from both ends, the front and the back. Somehow I feel like I'm still some kind of tether where I'm still attached to my body. And he says his name is Allar. He says, I'm a king shaman. I've been here for millennium. I'm the eldest of this clan, eldest statesman of this clan. And I wanted to introduce you guys to the clan. So I'm like, okay. So then I wake up and again, I call my psychic and I say, hey, Allar came to me last night, gave me his name. He said it was Allar. What name? Did he give you a name? She said, no. And I said, she goes, what did you feel like when you were in his presence? I said, I felt like I was in the presence of royalty and that I should have gone down on my hands and knees and bowed because I wasn't worthy of this entity's presence. Okay. That's how I felt. And she said, yes, he demands respect. So then I said, just out of curiosity, I'm talking to my psychic. I said, the white Sasquatch I seen on the parkway 3 years ago, was that Allar? And she says, yes. And I was like, okay. And when I passed him, I looked him in the eyes and he had fireball red eyes. Okay. But we never had any telepathic communication. But I didn't tell my psychic that he had fireball red eyes. I said, what was the one thing that stood out to you about Allar? She said, well, besides being white and, 2,000 pounds and 10 feet tall, she said he had fireball red eyes. And I was like, okay. And so she said, Al, he's going to introduce you to the rest of the clan. The alpha female who already came by, Hyaneth, already knows about this. So then I call Chris back up and I say, what was the one thing about the white Sasquatch you seen in the tree line that stood out the most. And Chris said, well, the thing that jarred me out of my meditation was it had fireball red eyes. So I said, okay, so all three of us are seeing the same guy.
Wow.
Chris is in Connecticut. I'm in New York. My psychic's in Arkansas. So we're all having this. So then the psychic says, okay, when you go with Chris to the sacred site, you're going to experience all kinds of things. You're going to experience a lot of paranormal experience. Chris is not familiar with this, so walk him through it. But you're also going to see Sasquatches, and you're going to have all kinds of stuff. It's like, okay, now Chris calls me up and says, I did a meditation, and I seen this stone wall, long stone wall in the middle of the woods. I didn't tell him there was a stone wall in the north end of the sacred site. I just left it as is. We get to the woods, and he's like, wow, this place is really squatchy. Beautiful sunny day, 50, 60 degrees out, gorgeous day, but it's going to get cold that night. And I told Chris, pack for the weather. It's going to get cold tonight. It's going down to like 40 degrees, 35 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I'm packed. Chris is sleeping over my house because he's not driving back home, which we don't know what time we're getting out of the woods. So we hike in, we do a day-night hike. We hike in during the day. We get up to the sacred site, and Chris is just like blown away by all the signs, Sasquatch sign, and the giant stones and all of the stuff. And he's like, oh my God, this place is insane. The energy here is unbelievable. And so we're sitting there, and we're setting up for the night. I got audio recorders out. I got EMF meters out. I got all kinds of stuff going. And Chris is literally a foot away from me. Where he's sitting down, I'm sitting down in the chair, and he turns to me and said, "What did you say?" I said, "I didn't say anything." He said, "Well, I just heard somebody say something in my ear." So, well, it wasn't me, you know. He goes, "Wow, that was weird, but I heard a voice, an audible voice in my ear." I said, "No, it wasn't me." So then he keeps getting pulled back to the north, to the western ridge. And he keeps getting pulled back there. And he's like, Al, this is where they come in. This is what I'm like, Chris, you're not telling me something I don't know. I've been here a million times. This is their ridge. Over this ridge is their home range. This is where they come in, you know? And all of a sudden, he starts being pulled to the north. And he's walking towards the north. And he's like, he sees the stone wall. And he's like, this is the stone wall I've seen in my vision, in my meditation. This is the stone wall. And as he's there, I see something, and this was weird because I've never seen anything like this before in my life, but it looked like, have you ever seen a ringtail lemur hop like parallel, like it hops to the left or hops to the right with his hands up, and it just got this funky jump, like, right? Yeah. Well, I'm standing there looking at the western ridge, and this 7-foot skinny thing. It had to be 6-7 feet tall, but it was skinny, and it was shaggy. Double connecting. Okay, we're back. So I see this.
Can y'all hear us still?
I can hear you.
It cut out for a minute now.
Yeah.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I see this 7-foot shaggy thing jumping across my vision. It's going from one tree to another. And these two trees are about maybe 25 feet apart. And he does it in 2 jumps. Boom, boom. And I'm looking at this thing jumping in slow motion. And the image that's coming to my head is a ringtail lemur because its arms are up. And I'm watching the shaggy hair go up and down as it jumps. And I'm waiting for the hair to go up above its face so I can get a good look at its face. But the hair never goes above its face, and it goes behind another tree. And I call Chris back, and he comes over, and he doesn't see. And I was like, dude, I just seen like a 7-foot skinny-ass Sasquatch jump from one tree to the other, you know? But it was very shaggy. I've never seen one like that at this location. Ones at this location look like Patty. Okay, short hair, tight to the and big and bulky. It looked almost like a basketball player. So Chris goes, okay. So we go back to the base camp, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden it gets really dark. It's in the middle of the day, and it gets really dark, and the temperature drops, and it gets very, very cold. And the wind, the clouds are swirling above the tree line, around in circles, almost like a purplish color. It almost looks like a tornado's about to hit down, right? And it's swirling. And Chris is going, look at this bird. Look at this blackbird. There's a blackbird over here. Look at this blackbird. And I'm like, I don't see any blackbird. He goes, it's going from tree to tree. He sees what he thinks is a blackbird or a crow or something to that. It's jumping, flying from tree. And then it starts to go up in between the trees like this towards the clouds. There's one little opening in the top of the tree line, right? And it turns into a puff of smoke.
Yes.
And he's like, dude, what does that mean? And I'm looking at him and I was like, I don't know what that means because I didn't see it, but it's definitely not cryptid. This is definitely, we're having a paranormal experience at this point, and the energy shifts. And it's all of a sudden, we both feel the energy shift. It goes from this beautiful, peaceful, calm energy to almost like an aggressive kind of negative energy. And I take out my military compass and I put it down at Chris's feet, and it's just spinning like a top. And he goes, what does that mean? I was like, well, you have some energy swirling around you because the compass is swirling around. So then I break out the dowsing rods and I walk to the north end of the sacred site, and I turn around just to see where the energy goes, and the dowsing rods point to Chris. I go to the east end, and the dowsing rods point to Chris. To the west, to the south, they always point to Chris. So he's freaking out because he's like, what does this mean? What does this mean? I said, Chris, there's some kind of energy here, and it's attracted to you. Whatever it is, it's attracted to you. I go, here, you hold the compasses, because you hold the dowsing rod, because he's never felt dowsing rods in his hands before. And if you've never felt it and you feel the energy go through your hands and through your body, it's an amazing feeling. So he's holding the dowsing rods, he's pointing them at me, and they spin around and they point to him. And he's like, dude, I don't want to know I don't want to touch these things, right? And so we're sitting there, and
Absolutely.
something, I don't know what it was, something wrapped around him, some kind of energy wrapped around him and made him cold to the core. He couldn't warm up. He had a big, heavy hunting jacket on with a hood. I was wearing nothing but a vest, a down vest, no hood, no gloves. I wasn't cold. He was cold to the core. He was freezing. His teeth were chattering. And he goes, I think we should go. And I was like, oh, dude, I don't want to go. You know what I mean? We just hiked in here. We've been here. He goes, Al, we've been here 4 hours. I think we should go. And his teeth are chattering. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want you to get pneumonia because of me. Because I'm that guy that when I get someplace, I never want to leave. You know what I mean? I always feel like there's more to come, you know?
Yeah.
So we hike down to the main trail, about a half a mile. We get on the main trail, another 2 miles out to the mining road. As soon as we get to the mining road, the skies clear up. The sun comes out. It's 60 degrees again. Whatever was there that day did not want us there. And it drove us out. So we left. Okay. So we said, okay, we're going to come back. Chris says, I'm going to come back. Chris didn't even sleep over at my house. He got in his car and drove home, an hour and a half, straight home. He drove home. And I was like, okay, I got to go back. So then we were supposed to go back on Friday the 13th. I'm like, okay, Friday the 13th. It's going to be Friday the 13th. There's going to be 1% of the moon. There's going to be a solar eclipse. I can't wait to get there. I'm going come hell or high water. And Chris calls me up and says, oh, my boss forced me to work. I can't go. I said, okay, I got some neighbors that have been wanting to go. I'm going to bring them out with me. I got a cousin that wants to go. I'll bring him out with me. So I call up my neighbors, called my cousin. My cousin says, yeah, I'm in. Everybody says they're in. The day of the investigation, all my neighbors cancel on me. So I call my cousin and said, you still coming? He says, yeah. So I hike in with my cousin. But before that happens, I get a vision from Allar, the white Sasquatch, appears to me again and says, go to the sacred site and cleanse the site. Whatever came in that day that attached itself to Chris, that wrapped around him, was negative, and I was supposed to go there and cleanse the site. So I said, okay. So one day I'm off from work. I hike in 4 miles by myself during the day. I go up to the sacred site. I give Chris a call, say, listen, I'm at the sacred site. Allar came to me last night. He told me to cleanse the site. So I'm going to cleanse the site because we're coming on Friday the 13th of all days, right? So he says, okay. All of a sudden, I'm getting sick. I'm nauseous. I'm overheating. I'm sweating profusely. And I know these are symptoms of being hit with infrasound. And I say to Chris, I said, Chris, I'm being hit with infrasound. I have to move. I got to get away from where I am. And I get up and I walk to a different part of the sacred site. And I sit down behind a giant oak tree. And I put that oak tree between me and what's ever hitting me with the infrasound that's making me sick. And I get better. I start to feel better. I drink some water. I light the sage. I get up. I said, whatever you are that's trying to stop me from doing this, you failed. And I start saging the site. And I sage the site all from top to bottom, left to right. And I sage the whole site. I said, okay, now I know when I come back on Friday the 13th, we'll be good. Friday the 13th rolls around. I come back. My psychic says, okay. I tell her about my cousin. She says, my cousin's gifted. He's okay. You don't have to worry about him. There are 2 people that were supposed to come with us. She said we had to put in the middle of all of us because they would get afraid, and we didn't want them running off and getting hurt, running off the side of a cliff or something. But no one else came, so it was just me and my cousin. So we hike in 4 miles. We get to the sacred site, show them the sacred site, set up all the stuff. Again, this time I set up glow sticks, different colored glow sticks around us, about on all the stones, these big giant megalithic stones. And in front of us, I put yellow glow sticks. We call the psychic, and the psychic says, okay, tonight is going to be crazy night. The veil is thin. There are not going to be any Sasquatches here. The energy that's coming through is so negative that the Sasquatches don't want anything to do with it. So be careful, because there's going to be all kinds of stuff coming in tonight. She said, she goes, they're otherworldly. And she goes, I'm seeing the image of gnomes. You're going to see gnomes. And my cousin's laughing hysterical because, we're going to see gnomes, right? And I'm like, dude, whatever she says is going to happen is going to happen, because she told me we were going to see gnomes before we did, And she says, something is showing itself to me as a fairy. She said, but I don't believe it's a fairy. I feel like it's what you call it, a trickster. She said, so be careful with that guy. There's a trickster. She said, then something is going to come in on you. And she said, it has the head of a dogman, but the body of a Sasquatch, but it's very shaggy. She goes, be careful, because this thing is dangerous. And my cousin's like hearing all of this stuff and, like he's starting to get scared. He's a 20-year-old kid. He's never been out on any of this stuff before. And as he's starting to get scared, he can feel the fear starting to hit him like a wave. He pushes it back down. He gets it out of him. He says, no, I'm not going to let this take me over. I'm going to be fine. And I told him, we're at the sacred site. Nothing is going to happen to you here tonight. I've been here a million times. I've never had any issues. So we set up these glow sticks around us. And I got my full spectrum going, my thermal going, my infrared going. I got two voice recorders going, one at each end. I got EMF meters going, and I start with a baseline reading of the location to see what kind of energy we're dealing with.
Mhm.
And the only way I can explain it is it felt like we were in a dome, and everything that was going to happen was going to happen around us. There was no animal life. The woods were devoid of life, just devoid of life.
Oh, wow.
And we're in these woods, and we set up these different color glow sticks. And in front of us, I put yellow glow sticks for ambient light. But we both have 700 luma headlamps that go from wide angle to very narrow. And we're sitting there in our chairs. And again, my cousin's freezing. I'm not that cold. I don't know why I don't get cold, but I'm not at these locations. But he's pretty cold. He's got a blanket wrapped around him and everything. And the glow sticks on our right start moving. They go this way, and they go that way, and they go up, and they go down. We put our headlamps on. There's nothing there. We shut the headlamps off, and they start doing figure eights, and they're going this way and that way. We get up. We walk over to them, because I figured if something is moving these glow sticks, there's no way they can put them back down in the same exact spot where I put them. We go check them out. They're in the same exact spot where I put them. So I don't know. I'm at a loss. I don't know what's going on. So I called the psychic. She says, that's the trickster. He's doing that to you. I got EMF meters around the glow sticks. The meters are not going off. I start doing my, what I call rituals to change the energy. Now, there really was no energy to change, because when I did the baseline reading, all 250 readings were flatlined. Nothing. Nothing was reading anything that night. Okay. I do my first ritual. I check the meters. Nothing. I do my second ritual. I check the meters. Nothing. I do this 4 different times, 4 different rituals. I got nothing that night. There was no energy whatsoever. It was like we were in a black void. Just no energy.
That's terrible.
Now the glow stick on my left is blinking on and off, on and off, on and off. And my cousin says, is it possible that these glow sticks are dying? And I said, absolutely not. These things are like 10-hour glow sticks. We've only been here a couple of hours. There's no way. We put our headlamps on, and the glow stick is fine. We shut the headlamps off, and they start blinking. We get up and walk over to them. The glow sticks are not blinking. So we're sitting there, and then all of a sudden, we hear a helicopter come over us. And there's a helicopter above us, like a Black Hawk helicopter right above us, looking down at us from the opening in the tree canopy. And it's looking at us, and we're looking at this. And my cousin's like, what's this all about? And I go, I don't know. Don't worry about it. And it flies off. Okay. Now we start to hear, this is crazy. We start to hear a train going by. I'm 4 miles deep in the woods. There are no trains near me. No commuter train. The closest commuter train is like 12 miles away. There are no trains anywhere. Anywhere. The train comes by once. It comes by twice. It comes by 3 times. We hear a ghost train. Just now, there used to be a freight train that used to run past this location 40 years ago, but they don't use those tracks anymore. You know what I mean? So we're hearing the ghost train go by. So I'm telling my cousin, this is amazing, because I got the digital voice recorder going behind us. We're getting everything. We do a tree knock. We hear a tree knock from the east side of the lake, which is usually the dogman side of the lake. was interesting. Then my cousin does a scream. He does an amazing Bigfoot scream. He does a scream, and we hear a reply about 100 yards away from us from the north. Loud as could be, and I'm thinking this is beautiful because I got the voice recorders going. You know, I'm getting this, and it screams not once, not twice, but 3 times. And every time it screamed, it's like further and further away. It was like screamed, it was 100 yards behind us. Second scream, it was a half a mile. Third scream, it was a mile away. All of this within 3 seconds. And my cousin is like, is it possible for these things to run that fast? And I said, it is if they're jumping through portals and they're jumping through dimensions. But I said, we got it on recorder. It's all good. Okay. Now we're there 8 hours. It's pitch black. It's dark. We got 1% of the moon. And when I tell you it's dark, it's dark. Okay. We had a solar eclipse during the day. No, the energy is dead. We're in a void. Okay. Now, the glow sticks I got set up in front of us are different colors. But the one I have directly in front of me, about 100 yards away or 50 yards away, happens to be yellow. And I'm looking at this yellow glow stick, and I'm confused because now there are 3 yellow glow sticks there and not 1. So I said to my cousin, I said, come over here. Do you see these 3 yellow glow sticks over there? And he's like, yeah. I said, but I only put 1 over there. And he's like, yeah. I said, so what are the 2 other yellow glow sticks? And so I said, let's go and see what these other yellow glow sticks are. As we go to get up, the yellow glow sticks blink and stand straight up. And now we're staring at a 7-8 foot giant, hairy, look like, to me, I would have called it a Gugway because it looked like it had a dogman's head, but a Sasquatch body. But I have never heard of any Gugways in this area. And as we start to walk towards it, it turns and it runs north up along the western ridge. And it jumps over that stone wall, that 4-foot stone wall, crashes through the trees, just takes everything down like a bulldozer. And my cousin is like, what the hell did we just see, you know? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. So we call the psychic and we tell her what we seen. And she goes, yes, I told you there was going to be a creature there that was very shaggy, that had a dogman head and a Bigfoot body. She goes, it's not a dogman. It's not a Bigfoot. She goes, I don't know what a Gugway is, but whatever this thing is, it came through from a different dimension. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, maybe you guys should leave, you know, because it's dark. It's 1% of the moon. And she said, this thing is dangerous. I was like, okay. But I know I cleansed the sacred site and everything was good. So we hang around for like another half hour or so. And the woods just go dead. There's nothing else. So we pack up, and as we're leaving, we're walking along the trail, the Appalachian Trail that goes against the lake. It's right up against this lake that we're at. And from across the lake on the eastern side of the lake, something throws a stone at us. The size, it had to be like a 500-pound stone. Because when it hit the water, the splash went up about 25 feet. And my cousin's eyes opened up like, you know, dinner plates. He was like, dude, what the hell was that? And I told him, don't worry about it. It's just a beaver jumping in the water, I told him, right? Because I didn't want to freak him out. Because we're on this Appalachian Trail. It's like a goat trail. You can't run on it. It's dangerous. So we're walking, we're walking, and about 10 minutes later, it happens again. But who's ever throwing these stones at us, I don't believe they were coming from our side of the lake, because we could see the woods. These headlamps that we have shoot into the woods 600 feet, and there's nothing, like there's no rock that it could be on throwing these stones. It's got to be coming from the cliff on the other side. But they're almost landing on our side of the lake. I mean, it's throwing these giant boulders almost all the way across the lake. So it happens again. Again, we stop. We look at the splash. It goes up about 25 feet. And my cousin says, I don't think that's a beaver, you know? And I start laughing. I go, yeah, no, it's a beaver. Don't worry about it, you know? So we're walking and we're hiking out. And I said, okay, we're going to come up on a ranger station at the beginning of the trailhead. I said, it has an invisible eye that when you go past, it's going to ring inside the ranger station, and the dogs are going to start barking, and then the sensor lights are going to go on, and the ranger's going to come out. Let me do all the talking. He says, okay. We get to the ranger station, and I know where the invisible eye is because I've been there a zillion times. And we walk past the invisible eye. We can see the lights on in the ranger station in the vehicle in front of the station, but the dogs never start barking. So we just keep walking. We get to where the sensor lights are. We walk past the sensor lights. We walk maybe 100 yards. We get to the main road, which is 100 yards from where the sensor light, and the sensor lights come on like 5 minutes after we walked through them. Didn't make any sense. Why didn't the sensor lights go off when we walked through them immediately? Why didn't the invisible eye ring in the station and the dogs start barking? This happens every single time when I go to this place. And this particular night, it was like the invisible eye and the sensor light didn't see us. It was weird. It was weird. And like I said, it was devoid of life. Just absolutely devoid of life that night.
Al, real quick, I got a couple of questions. We're going to
go
take
for
questions probably in about 30 minutes, but I got a couple of questions for you. When you saw the white Sasquatch for the first time, now let me ask you this first. It came to you in a dream, and you're psychic. Yes. And did you say Chris also saw it, and they all saw it? I guess speaking.
All three
you thought
of us
it was
seen
a dream,
it.
But now, did you ever? Are you saying that you also went out into the field doing research, and you actually got to see it in person, also outside of the telepathic communication?
No, the night it was supposed to show itself to us was the night something attached itself to Chris, and I couldn't get Chris warm no matter what we did. I mean, I had a down vest that was heated, and I said, dude, put my heated vest on. It's got a battery operated, and I got hand warmers and everything else. And it was just, no matter what we did, he was cold to the core. I couldn't get him heated, so we never stood there long enough for it to really get dark and for Allar to come. So no, he never showed himself to us while we were there. But I think if we would have stayed longer that night, like if we would have stayed late, I think he would have came like he said he was going to come.
Now, let's talk about the telepathic speaking, because, like a lot of times when it comes to Bigfoot and dogman encounters, a lot of people will talk about how these creatures speak to them telepathically. When you receive this, and I know you said it told you its name, did you ask this being or creature, I don't really know what to call it, I'm trying to figure that part out as far as what they are, but did you ever ask it any questions that we all want to know about what they are, why they're here, how long they've been here? Did you ask them any questions like that?
The only question I remember asking it was, what's your name? And it said Allar, capital ALI dash capital REK. That's how he spelled it to me. That's how I seen it in my mind's eye. Allar. That was the name he gave me. But like I said, when I was in his presence, it felt like I was in the presence of royalty or greatness, and like I wasn't worthy to be there. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
for some reason, he felt that I was, and he was making contact with me and my psychic and Chris at the same time. You know, Chris, Chris was jarred out of his meditation because he's seen those fireball red eyes, and it kind of shook
Mm-hmm.
him. But they didn't phase me because when I seen him on the Parkway, I seen him from like half a mile away, and I didn't know what the hell they were until I got up on them, and then I seen the whole white Sasquatch. You know what I mean? Standing on the side of the road. And when he looked at me and I looked at him, we looked eyes to eyes. There was no communication. And I asked my psychic, I asked Robin too. I said, why wasn't there any communication that day? And they both told me the same thing. They said, you weren't ready for it at that point, but I'm ready for it now, I guess.
Have they given you any information you feel like that would help in the research in this field or investigating, like as far as like what everybody's wanting to know? Also, how often does white Sasquatch? How often does it speak with you telepathically? And the reason I ask that is because I would be wanting to ask a bunch of questions just to know, like, because we're all trying to figure it out. So for the people who are receiving telepathic communications from them, I would want to know more. Or are you on? Are you bound not to ask them certain stuff, or you don't feel comfortable? Or
You know what it's like, B? It's like being on a paranormal investigation, okay, for the first time with a camera in your hand, and you see an orb or a shadow figure, and you never snap the picture because your brain can't comprehend what your eyes are seeing. And when I'm in his presence, I just feel like this thing is so old and so powerful, and he just, like I said, it feels like I'm in front of royalty and I'm not worthy. And as far as like asking questions, the thought never even crosses my mind. The only question I have ever asked it was its name, and the same thing with the female one who told me she was the alpha female on Hyanet. I mean, that was the only two questions I ever asked either one of them. What's your name? You know, who am I communicating with? You know, and but Alaric gave my psychic a different name. I told my psychic, I said, if you see Alaric again, and I told Chris, if you see Alaric again, ask him his name. And when he did appear to my psychic for the second or third time, he gave her a different name. So then I called Robin up because my psychic is Native American. She's Cherokee. And I called Robin up and I said, Robin, we're all communicating with the same one, but two of us got two different names. And Robin started laughing. She says, Al, they have more than one name. They have the tribe name and they have the name they give to you, which is like connects you to them personally. She goes, they probably never give us their real names, you know, unless they give you the tribe name, you
mm-hmm.
know. And I think my psychic, because of her Native American blood, got the tribe name where I didn't, you know what I mean? I got the name
Mm-hmm.
that he wanted to be me to know him by. So no, it's like when you're in their presence, asking them questions is like, you know, you're just there and you're like, and they're communicating with you and you're just trying to absorb everything that they're telling you. You know, like when Hyanet told me she was looking forward to meet Chris Reinhardt from Connecticut, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what are you talking about? How do you know Chris Reinhardt from Connecticut? You know what I mean? Chris has never been to the sacred site. Yeah, and they're like, yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to meeting him. We've heard great things about him. That's what she told me. It's just mind boggling, you know?
I can't say that I've ever had any. I'm gonna say it like this. If I ever had any mind speak, I would say that it was the first time that I ever back in 2013. The very first night, I wasn't even expecting to see it. I already knew about those creatures, but I still never thought, like, growing up in that house where where I grew up, where my parents moved into that house, I think in like 1985. I never never thought anything about Dogman or Bigfoot like growing up or even in my teenage years, but I always believed in stuff like that. Loch Ness Monster, Bermuda Triangle, all kind of weird stuff like that. I believed it since way back in the day when the National Enquirer used to come out and shows like
Oh
sightings
yes,
and
absolutely. Yeah, I
solve
always
mysteries.
love. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, me too.
so I
I
would
was the
watch
same
those
exact
shows,
way.
but well, if you remember back then when they would do those shows and have those well, not the show sightings actually took that stuff seriously, but if you remember the National Enquirer, they always kind of put it on there as a joke when it came to
Yes.
aliens and Bigfoot and stuff like that. They never really took it seriously. But now there's so many different things out there. People have said like there's things out there that's worse than Bigfoot and Dogman, and I'm sure that there are like right now for me, my mind is so open to like so many other things that we've been told doesn't exist because and for the all intents and purposes, Bigfoot, I don't know, like is that what they would have called a troll and like some of these folklore and stories and stuff like that, ancient history, and then you look at
Yeah,
Dogman,
and
he's
I
a
didn't
werewolf.
think the trolls were as hairy as Bigfoots. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I take it as it comes. When they want to communicate with me, they communicate with me, and I'm open to the communication, and I'll listen to what they have to say. Like when he came to me and told me to go sage the sacred site. After that night, Chris had something wrap around him that made him cold to the core. We both felt the energy shift that night from a really peaceful, calm energy to something definitely darker. It felt like like there was something there that night that didn't want us there, and I was trying to convince Chris that even if something the energy shifted and trying to get us out of here, maybe it's trying not so much that this energy is negative trying to scare us out of here, but maybe it's something positive trying to get us out of harm's way. You know what I mean? So I don't
Yeah,
know if
I want to take a couple of questions real quick. Um, Abe, I don't know what do they cuss at you on your EVPs? Is that cuss? I'm not sure if that's what you're saying. Do they cuss at you on your EVPs or anything negative that you get from that on your
no,
EVPs
as
when
a
you go back and
matter of
listen to
fact,
audio?
that same night, the black helicopter came back. We had to come by twice, once early on during the day and once late at night before we left. And when I checked my digital voice recorder, um, my digital voice recorder said that it said error, file corrupted. So I didn't get any of the black helicopters. I didn't get any of the train. I didn't get any of the whoops. I didn't get anything on any audio that night. It was all just, like I said, I felt like we were in a dome and everything that was happening outside of it, we were in this void and it recorded nothing. And we both looked at it when we put it down because because he's a young guy. I said, "You got better eyes than me. Just make sure that the numbers are moving." And he says, "Yeah, it says it's recording." I said, "Okay, let's go with that." And we did put out gifts. I put out some gifts. I did some like um, the squeaky toys for the dogs that they chew on. I put them out when I
Mm-hmm.
went with Chris. Very colorful ones, like a yellow and green and an orange and red one. And the squeaky toys were gone. When I went back to Sage, the squeaky toys were gone. Um, and I put the squeaky toys out because I know they like to play with those. And I put the EMF meters next to the squeaky toys because I figured if they're putting off EMF, then because you can't see them when they come and grab the toy, especially when it's 1% of the moon. But if they grab the squeaky toy, the EMF meter will go off, plus the toy will squeak, and I know there's something there. But I never heard the squeaky
Absolutely.
toy. I never heard the squeaky toys go off, and nothing registered on any of my 250 meters. I got absolutely nothing, which is the first time in 12 years that I've been going there that I couldn't get the energy to change no matter what I did. Or I could even get a baseline reading on energy because it just doesn't make any sense because there's energy all around us all the time. And even if you just do a baseline, there's going to be some kind of energy on the devices, but all the devices were just flatlined. It was crazy.
Al, real quick, I'm gonna take a quote from Josh. All right, I'm gonna take a question from Josh. Josh said there's so many different types of. It really just depends what you're dealing with. Different regions and cultures have different types and names with many different descriptions. I think he's talking about the trolls. So he's
Trolls.
asking, what kind of troll and what regions are these entities from?
I
What do you
don't
mean? What
know.
region are these
Yeah, I
entities
mean,
from,
I know there are
Josh?
there are mountain trolls and there are river trolls and there are, you know, highland trolls and lowland trolls. And I guess different trolls from different regions. If you're living in Australia compared to like the European Alps, maybe the ones in the Alps are hairy and the ones down in Australia aren't. I don't know. You know, I've studied a little bit on trolls, mostly mountain trolls and river trolls, but because up here we have the Rip Van Winkle Bridge is like 10 miles away from me, and there was supposed to be a troll that slept under that bridge, you know, because the bridge spans the Hudson River at the narrowest point. So, you know, I did a little research on trolls only because of that bridge, but you know, that's about it. I'm not an expert on trolls. I'm not an expert on
Al,
anything,
did
but
you did you
I didn't hear you.
did you want to go into what you were telling me earlier about the other things that
Yes,
you encountered?
absolutely. Okay. So,
Yeah, because
supposed to I'm going back out on October 28th. Okay. This particular day, there was going to be a full moon and a lunar eclipse, total opposite of Friday the 13th. So I couldn't get out there fast enough, you know? And again, Chris is supposed to come with me and my cousin's supposed to come with me. But my cousin says, oh, he calls me up. He says, I got to work. I can't come. And Chris has issues with his eyes. And he had an issue with his eyes and he couldn't come because he couldn't see, he couldn't drive. So I said, okay, well, then I guess I'm going by myself because come hell or high water, I'm going out there because I want to do, I want to be there on this lunar eclipse and this full moon. I have to be there. Every fiber of my body is just drawing me out there. So I'm doing something that I never did before in my life. I'm going by myself. So my psychic calls me up and she says, you're going to go in a way that you've never gone before. And I go, no, I'm not. And she goes, yeah, you are. And I go, no, I'm not. You know, and I'm having this argument with her. And she says, there are going to be entities following you. She goes, I see a Skinwalker and I see a Wendigo following you. When you come to the forks in the road, choose wisely because if you choose the wrong path, it could be the end of you. And I'm arguing with her like, I'm not going any way but the way I always go. And I'm not going down any path I've
mm-hmm.
never been on. And I'm going on and on and on. And she's like, call me when you go out because I'm telling you this is what's going to happen. So I said, okay, because no matter what my psychic says, as crazy as it sounds, and she tells me some shit that sometimes is so off the wall, I can't wrap my mind around it. But at the end of the day, she's always 100% right. It's scary. My cousin calls me up and he says, listen, if you can wait till 5, I'll go with you. I'm getting out early. So I said, okay, I'll wait till 5. Still gives us an hour and a half to get in there before it gets dark, you know? But he doesn't get out at 5 and he runs late and this, that, and the other thing. And we end up parking half a mile away from where we normally park. And now it's dark and I can't go past the ranger station in the dark because the ranger's not going to let me into the park at dark. So now I have to take a path I've never been on before. And I'm like, okay, this is like, now I know, I don't tell my cousin any of this because I don't want to freak him out, but I know what my psychic is telling me. And she says there's going to be an upper path and a lower path. You're going to take the lower path. I'm like, okay. I'm laughing because I think, no, I'm not going in that. Nope. I take the lower path. Okay. I get on the lower path. I take the lower path and we're hiking in. And I'm so focused on staying on the right trail because in the back of my head, all I keep hearing my psychic saying, choose wisely when you come to the forks in the road. And we're hiking in and it's getting darker. And then the solar eclipse comes and it gets pitch black. And the way the Appalachian Trail is, they'll put markers on the tree to show you which trail to take. Well, I get to the first fork in the road, and my cousin says, and I'm trying to get a feel for which way to go, right or left. So I'm like, all right, come on, gut, don't stare me wrong now, you know. And my gut is saying, go left, go left, go left. And my cousin taps me on the shoulder and says, something's following us. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, every time we stop, it stops. Every time we walk, it walks. And I go, well, what are you seeing? He goes, he starts to describe what he sees following us on the right. And then he says something that shook me to my core. He says, have you ever seen any skinwalkers out here? And I'm like, dude, why did you say that word? Where did this come from? You just pulled it out of left field? And he says, I'm telling you, cuz what I just seen following us is a skinwalker. And I'm like, shh, don't keep saying that word, you know, don't jinx us. So now I'm really freaking out because he says there's a skinwalker following us. He says there's two things following us, but he's only seen the skinwalker. I don't see anything. It's pitch black. We're in a lunar eclipse. And I got to decide right or left. And my gut is saying, go left, go left, go left. And then I hear a little voice in my head say, look up. And I look up, and 8 feet up at the top of a skinny little tree is a break. And it's pointing left. And I tell my cousin, see that right there? That's a Sasquatch marker. And it's telling us to go left. And not that it's telling us, but it's telling the other Sasquatches, when you get to this fork in the road, go left. So we went left. And about 100 feet down that path, we seen the marker for the trail. So we knew we were on the right trail. Now we're walking, and the solar eclipse is passing. The moon is coming up. We're about 5-6 miles from the mining road. When we get to the mining road, we still got another 4 miles to go to get to the sacred site. But we're hiking, and we're hiking. And the moon is up. And we get to another fork in the road. Hey, Kat, we get to the fork, another fork in the road. And my cousin looks up and he says, the break says right. I said, okay, my gut says right too. Let's go right. We go right. And then I hear something follow us. Now I'm paying attention to what's going on behind me. And my cousin says, yo, cuz, turn around. Slowly, turn around. He goes, what the hell is that? And I turn around. And all I see is a rack of antlers. It looks like an elk head. About 50 feet behind me, in between the trees and the moon rays. And he goes, what's that? And he knows it's a Wendigo. And I know it's a Wendigo. And I say, it's probably just an elk. We don't have elk in New York. Okay, we have deer. But it's about 7 feet tall, you know? So we start walking. We keep walking. We go over 2 bridges that I've never seen before in my life, a couple of creeks. We come to like these every time we come to a fork in the road, we look up. There's a direction marker pointing us in the right direction. We finally get to the mining road, and I'm exhausted. You know, after 5-6 mile hike, I'm exhausted. We sit down at a location I call the campsite. We have some water. We eat some power bars. We've still got another 3 miles to go to get to the sacred site. We hike up to the sacred site. We get up to the sacred site. Put the glow sticks out again. I put the glow sticks down in front of me. Call the psychic. Psychic says, "Okay, this is what's good. This is what's going to come in tonight. You're going to see something with yellow eyes. I think it's the same thing that was there the last time you were there. Call it a dogman, call it a Gugway, whatever you want to call it. It's this thing. I see something with blue eyes. I see something with green eyes, and I see something with red eyes." She goes, "This is what's." So I go, "Okay." So we got to look for eye shine. She says, "It's going to be on the western ridge." Okay. So we're sitting there, and the funny thing about it is the night that we were the glow sticks were moving, I was filming in 3 different spectrums of light, and not one camera filmed those glow sticks moving, but my cousin filmed it on his phone, and he got the images of the glow sticks moving on the camera. I don't know why he was able to get it with his cell phone, but I couldn't get it with any of my cameras. Didn't make any sense. So we're sitting there, and the glow stick is starting to move again on the right. I got the EMF meter set up again. I got the digital voice recorders going, and I start all my 250 things all over again. I do the baseline reading. Everything that I'm doing is giving me a different reading. I'm very excited about that because now I know there's animals in the woods. You can hear tree frogs and crickets. There's geese in the lake. There's duck in the lake. And the woods are alive, just alive. And we're not in the dome. We're not in the black void. The sacred site feels like it always does. The energy is very peaceful and calming. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, at one point, I see a pair of yellow eyes go across, and then the red eyes, and the green eyes, and the blue eyes. And according to the psychic, it was this dogman creature or whatever, the Gugway or whatever it was. There was a sasquatch in there. No, not the sasquatch. There was a Gugway. Let's call it a Gugway. Gugway. The red eyes was, the psychic said that the red-eyed creature was the Skinwalker. The green-eyed creature was the Wendigo, and the blue-eyed creature was a rake. She says, "There's also an alien there." She said, "It's behind you, and it looks like the Predator." And I like, wait a minute. Do you mean it looks like the Predator when it's shimmering, or do you mean it looks like the Predator? And she says, "No, it looks like the Predator." And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to see this thing. I'm already dealing with this shit in front of me that's out of my mind. I don't want to deal with this. I can't wrap my head around it. But then she says to me, "You're okay at the sacred site because the sacred site is bound, and whatever these things are, they can't come in." And she says, "If you see anything inside the sacred site, don't worry about it because it's harmless. But these things are trying to get you to come out to see what they are. Once you leave that site, you're vulnerable." It's like, okay. So my cousin, we got a green laser pointer. And I said to my cousin, I said, "Sean, am I going crazy? Are there 4 different colors eyes on the western ridge?" And then he gets the laser pointer and he circles it. I see green eyes here, red eyes here, blue eyes here, yellow eyes here. And that's everywhere he circled and he called the color of the eye shine was exactly where I seen it. So I know we both aren't having the same hallucination. You know what I mean? So this glow stick starts moving, but very, very little. But now the K2 meters are going off. The meters are acting up. I put out new toys, different kind of toys, squeaky toys. Like one was like a yellow duck and one was like a pink duck, right? That squeaked. Like I love the dog toy stuff, because they make noise, and then they grab it, they squeeze it, it makes a noise. You know they're there. Even if they're hiding, you can't see them. The moon is so bright that is casting our shadows in front of us. And I feel like it's amping me up, man. I'm bouncing off the wall. The energy has just got me bouncing. I'm like wired. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this small black thing comes racing out of the darkness, runs around us, and then runs back into the darkness. And I turned to my cousin. I go, "Did you just see that?" He goes, "What did you see?" I said, "I swear to God, it looked like a little chimpanzee running so fast that it was a blur, because it looked like something that was on its front legs. You know what I mean? Bent over. That's what I
Yeah.
seen." He goes, "Yeah, it's exactly what I seen too. But it didn't make any noise, and we're surrounded by leaf litter. How could it be running on all this leaf litter and not make any noise?" And Sean is like, "Is this thing running in midair? How is it not making any noise?" I don't know. I don't know how it's not making it. We both seen it. It ran. And so we called the psychic. We said, "Cindy, we just seen this. What does it mean?" And she says, "It's just an entity from a different dimension, never seen humans before. It just wanted to take a look at you guys because it doesn't know what you are." And then she says, I see the other entities up on the Western Ridge looking down at you." I said, "Yeah, we can see the eye shine up there looking down at us." I go, "But it's not making any sense to me that these 4 or 5 different entities are all working together." And she said, "They are." She goes, "They don't usually work together. These things all work on their own, realm, and their own way. They're not usually like a group hunting, you know what I mean?" But she said, "But tonight they're working together." So then we're sitting there, and all this activity is going on all around us. The ghost train comes by again, okay? But it only comes by once this time, not 3 times. No helicopters, no UFOs. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, I see at the very base of the Western Ridge 3 or 4 shadows walking back and forth. They're pacing back and forth, back and forth. And I'm trying to get them in my cameras. I can't get these images in my camera. They're not even showing up cold in my thermal imager. It's just nothing is showing up. And I'm looking at them, and I'm looking, and then all of a sudden, I see this huge head. It looked like an ape head to me, peek out from behind a tree. And look, I'm looking at it in my thermal, and I'm like, "Holy crap!" I'm thinking it's a Sasquatch because it looked like an ape head, and it was conical and it was big, but it was really, really big, and it's peeking out behind a tree. So I call my cousin Sean over. I said, I get the laser pointer. I point to it with the laser pointer. I said, "Right there, what do you see?" And he says, "I see a head. There's a head looking at us from behind that tree." So again, I haven't checked any of my audio or my cameras at this point because I've been doing a lot of work around the house. So I haven't had a chance to get to anything. But I'm very excited because I'm filming in thermal, and I got this head. But whatever that thing is looking at me is not really grabbing my attention. It's the 3 6 or 7 foot shadows behind it that are pacing back and forth. And it looks like they're trying to figure out how to get into the sacred site. So I tell Sean, I said, "Okay, you know what? I got to go over there. I got to see what the hell we're dealing with." And Sean says, "Okay, we'll go over and we'll take a look." And the headlamps I'm wearing, this particular headlamp I'm wearing, has a battery pack that goes across the back of your head. Okay. It's metal on the back with a rubber thing where you put the batteries in. Okay. And I get hit with a rock from behind me. Like somebody threw a rock as hard as they could. And I swear to God, It hit that metal on the back of my battery pack, and it put a dent in that metal. If this thing would have hit me in the head, it probably would have
Oh my
stuck
God.
in my head. I jump up and I said, cursing, son of a bitch, I just got hit with a rock, you know? And we turn around, and my cousin's like, come on, let's go down and see what it is. I grab my 1500 Luma flashlight and I light up the woods. I said, wait, let's not just run out of here. Let's wait. And I look, and I'm telling you, this flashlight lit the woods up like daytime. And we see nothing, absolutely nothing. What I found out later was it was that alien thing. And when I shined the flashlight on it, it had put itself into that shimmering mode. And that's why I didn't
Yes.
see it, because that was something I wasn't looking for, you know? As a matter of fact, my psychic said it was only about 90 feet away from us. So my cousin wants to go and see what this is. And I'm like slowing him down. Another rock comes flying out of the darkness at us, hits my hunting chair that I used to sit on. And my hunting chair's got metal. It's metal. And you hear the metal go bing, it rings off the chair. So my cousin Sean is like, okay, we got to go down there. And I go, no, stop. I feel like whatever is doing this is trying to distract us from going over to see what those shadow things are. And I think we don't, let's leave this thing alone and let's go over and see what these shadows are. And the psychic did say something to me that says, no matter what we do that night, we have to stay together all the time. We can't separate because they're going to try to get us to separate. So I told my cousin Sean, I said, you come with me. Let's walk over to the ridge and see what's there. And I had the 1500 Luma flashlight, had the 700 Luma headlamp. Like I said, the headlamp alone shines 600 feet. We walk over to the area where the shadow figures are, and there's nothing there. Absolutely nothing there. So then we walk back down, and my cousin Sean's like, well, can we go look at whatever throwing the rock at us, you know? And I was like, no, we're not going to go look for whatever that is. So we're going to stay here. We're going to hunker down. So we stayed there. At that point, it was around 1:30 in the morning. So we stayed there for like another half hour. And all of a sudden, the woods was still alive with the animals. But whatever was there had left. The all the creatures that were there, the eye shine was all gone. The shadow figures were gone. The big thing with the gorilla head was gone. The black thing that ran around us was gone. The alien that was behind us, all of a sudden, everything was gone. It was just, but so I said, okay, you know what? It's 2:00 in the morning. It's time to hike out. So as we're hiking out, we go down, we hike out. As we're hiking out, you know, my cousin saw it would be crazy if we get rocks thrown at us again, right? No rocks thrown at us, no tree knocks, no screams, no nothing that night. But we come to the ranger station, right? And Sean says, man, it would be amazing if we can get past them again without anybody coming out. Soon as we go past that electric eye, it dings in the ranger station. The lights go on. The dogs start barking. We walk another 10 feet. The sensor lights go on. The ranger comes out. And she's like, what are you guys doing at the lake at night? And I was like, no, we were on the Appalachian Trail. We were filming the lunar eclipse and the moon phases. You know, we got turned around and we ended up at the lake, but we weren't at the lake. And you had to give them this whole big spiel. I always give them the same spiel, you know. And she's like, okay, just leave. So we left. We walked back to the car and we hiked back to the car. And again, it was like a half a mile back to the car along the woods to our right and the swamp. And it was spooky because, like I said, we have no sidewalks up here. We have no street lights. All we had were our headlamps. And actually, his headlamp went out about halfway down a trail, and I had to give him a spare to use because I was like, we're not going to stay here and fool around with batteries. Just I got a couple of extra ones. Just throw this one on so we can get out of here because I don't like to just be like dead in the water because I don't know what's going on around me if something's creeping up on me. So But we got out of there without any
Absolutely.
incident. Yeah, we got out of there without any incident. And, you know, it was a crazy night. It was something that I've never, ever expected. I've never seen anything at the sacred site other than Bigfoots. Again, the white Sasquatch wasn't there. Allar wasn't there. Hyaneth wasn't there. There were no Sasquatches there that night. But the energy of the place was off the charts. The energy was off
Real
the
quick,
charts. Everything was alive. Yeah.
Felicia Humphrey has a question for
Go
you.
ahead.
She said, "What part of the Appalachian Trail are you talking about?"
Talking about the northern New York State Dutchess Trail, Northern Dutchess. That's the county, Dutchess County in New York State.
Now, this is probably my last question, because I want to bring you back for about an hour and 15 minutes, but I want to bring you back on because I have like a whole nother line of questions and discussions that I want to have with you about cryptids and the paranormal. But I wanted
Okay.
to know, like, do you not ever worry about things following you home because of your research, with you already dealing with the paranormal?
Well,
Or
if
have you
you
had things
remember,
follow you home?
yeah, I've had Bigfoot follow me home, and I've had dogmen follow me home. And if you remember, we did an interview one time when the orb came out of my haunted mirror and stopped and looked at you, and you were like, "Al, there's an orb over your head."
Yes.
It just came out of that mirror, and then it left, it went out the back window, and like an hour later, it came back in, stopped again, looked at you, and then went back in the mirror. You were like, "I can't believe I seen an orb. I only seen them in pictures. This was crazy." So
Yes,
this,
well, you had told me. Well, it's funny because you had told me right before that show. You had said, "Don't be surprised if you see an orb fly by," and I was like, "Yeah, I got it. I'm gonna actually see one fly by." And then when I saw it, I'm like, oh my God! Like, is that?" And it wasn't just one. Two or three of them flew by, like behind you, like two or three different times throughout that show.
yeah, I
If y'all want to,
screenshotted that one too. Yeah, I screenshotted one of them. Yeah, that
and
was
if y'all
great.
want to see that, just go into the episodes of the show, and I think right now this is episode 48 or 49 that I'm doing with Al tonight. So this is episode 48. We just scroll back because I interviewed Al probably early on. I'm gonna say it's probably around the 20s. Go and look for that episode, because if I don't know, Al, if you still remember the timestamp on that, but you will actually see, like, it's a pretty big orb too, like
Yeah, it was a
flying
big one. It was
around
like right
behind
over my
him.
head, looking at you. Yeah, it was checking you out. Absolutely. Yeah, you were
That's it.
like,
I was like, oh my
oh.
God.
Yeah, you were blown away that night. So I have a
I
haunted mirror in the
was.
house. I have a haunted mirror in the house. That's a portal. I
Okay,
have a I have
let
a
me see.
German Luger from World War. Actually, was in World War One and World War Two. That's haunted, and I have a samurai sword. I don't know how old that is, but it's got 150 notches on it, so it's been around for a long time. And that's haunted as well. So I got a couple of haunted items in my house. But as far as anything negative follow me home, I'm not concerned. I don't go out with any subconscious fear. If I did have subconscious fear, I would just stay home. I wouldn't go out, because if you do, you're a beacon to these things. And I tell people all the time, when you go out in the woods, bigfooting, a dog man, protect yourself spiritually and physically, because there's so much more out in the woods than just animals that could attach itself to you and harm. Like with poor Chris, when we got back to my car, I had to sage him down to get that thing off of him. You know what I mean? So when he went home, he didn't bring anything
Hmm.
home with him. But we usually sage. I usually sage and say a white prayer before we go in, and then I do the same thing when we come out. And again, I sage all my equipment as well, because I use it to gather evidence. And entities can attach to your equipment as easy as it can a haunted doll. You know what I mean? So I
Yes.
always sage. I cleanse before I get in my car and drive home. I leave everything at the woods or wherever I'm investigating. I'm getting ready to investigate a haunted hotel coming up pretty soon. And right now I'm working on a murder mystery case that I can't talk too much about. And in between the 3 Bigfoot expeditions, I did a haunted cemetery. So, I'm always out there. This is what I love doing. I love being out there and investigating and researching. And so there's a lot, I got a lot of stuff going on right now. I'm juggling a lot of things, but there's more to come as far as I go, as far as this, we may be done for the season at the sacred site because we got snow the other day on November 1st. So I think we're going to get hit hard this year with snow. So I may be done for the Bigfoot expeditions this year, but I'm going to try to get out one more time with Chris at least, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, no, I protect, I go above and beyond. Believe me, when I say I go above and beyond, and after I had my ascension, I had to even go twice as much than I was before. Whatever I was doing before that I thought was a lot, I was told to double it up because now I'm so much more open to so much more acceptable to these things, to these entities and stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff out there. Like I said, my psychic said because the veil was so thin this year around Hallows Eve and Friday the 13th, and I think the next time we're going to get the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse in the same month, it's going to be like 14 years from now or something like that. And so it was a very special month this month, and I knew it was going to be special, and that's why I was just hell or high water. I was getting out there, those two particular nights. Nothing was going to stop me, even if I had to go alone. And I know I never go alone, but I would have done it that night.
Real quick, Al, Mr. Woods wants to know, you see that? You can see the questions?
Yeah, yes. Short answer to a long story, yes. Twice, I believe. As far as I know, maybe more. I honestly don't know more than the 2 times that I had that experience where I felt I was being abducted. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I mean, so I'm always doing something. This is what I love to do. I love to be out there in the field investigating, whether it's Bigfoot, ghosts, aliens, whatever. That's what I do. This is who I am. And oh, thank you very much. Yeah, like I said, I'm working a murder mystery now that's really, really crazy. And when I get permission to start talking about that, it's going to blow people's minds as well. So, yeah, all kinds of stuff. Oh, and guess what? I got a production company call me up. I'm shooting a music video.
Are you serious?
Hand to God, I had a production company call me up and they say they want me to be in this music video. It's about the Revolutionary War. My daughter, the girl plays my daughter, falls in love with a British soldier or something, and I'm the innkeeper. I'm going to be the innkeeper. So it should be fun. If nothing else, it should. And they're going to pay me. They're going to pay me 2 days to film plus expenses for traveling. So I'm psyched about it. I know a little bit about the Kandahar giant. Yeah, I know a little bit, Kath, about it. Not a ton. I did do some research on it, but I'm not. I don't know everything there is to know about it. I'm not privileged to that information. It just dribs and drabs. Okay. Yeah, this experiences. I've never in a million years would I have ever thought that I was going to see a Wendigo or a Skinwalker. And yes, I've seen a rake before, and I've seen Bigfoots and dogmen, but I've never seen one that was a cross between a Bigfoot and a dogman. And I never seen a shaggy looking Bigfoot either before. So, I mean, the experiences I've had this year at the sacred site are completely different than experience I've had in the last 12 years. I've never experienced anything like that.
Thank you, Michelle Burns. She said the episode with the orb is. Are you saying it's episode 9, Michelle?
And yeah, I know it was early on.
Podcast. I didn't realize it was that early on, but wow.
Yeah, it was early
Paranormal
on.
Heart
Yeah.
podcast asked me, ask you a question about that Kandahar. We'll be doing a show and talking more about that and just about giants in general. I've probably about 3 or 4 shows now with Chris, what was it, Chris Kramer? He's been on the show. We're still not finished with that last episode we did. So I think the show or a couple of shows before the one I did with Christopher Garitano, I had Chris Kramer on there. And Chris Kramer and I were talking about that. We didn't finish that because, yeah, people had a lot of good questions. I mean, there were so many different, I wanted to go with that conversation. It's so many, the connection between Bigfoot, dogman, aliens, and giants in the Nephilim. Can't remember the name of the title right now, but basically going into all of that, and it's not just something that you can talk about in one episode of show unless you do a whole day's worth, and even then, it's still so many different areas you can go into it. But y'all, it's we're at like an hour and a half right now, so we're gonna go ahead and shut down for the night. But he's a personal friend also, so I'm gonna have him back on. We're not finished. I want to talk to Al about, and Al has got so much that I could talk to him straight up. Just do a show about cryptids or the paranormal or about Shadow Man or about aliens and abductions or there's a certain word I don't want to say right now because I get scared. I feel like sometimes when I talk about certain stuff, I conjure stuff up. So there's basically Al can talk about all of it. So I'm gonna have him back. Apologies, my arthritis is showing out tonight. Um, and right now I don't have any. That's why I'm fidgeting so much, and it's like, oh my god, it's terrible. But y'all, after the show is over with, leave a comment in the comments after the show is over, and let us know what you want to talk about next. But I'm gonna be talking with Al too, aside from this, so we can decide on some more things. Chris Kramer will be back because we have way more to go into, and I will be getting some more guests periodically throughout the show. I've just been kind of trying to taper back a little bit because things are basically, I mean, y'all know how it is in the cryptid world nowadays. I mean, I'm just trying to balance my normal everyday life with the cryptid world and stuff like that to kind of pulling back from that as much and doing more stuff with real family and friends. Oh, let me take this question real quick, Al, though. Michelle Burns says, what do you think that these things are? And I'm assuming she's talking about like the different entities, Bigfoot, Dogman, and stuff like that. What do you think they are?
I think all of them, all of these entities, the ones that came out that night to play with me, other than the alien that I believe was extraterrestrial, not interdimensional, because there was an incident that happened at the sacred site the other night. Chris Reinhardt seen like a blast of energy um, attached to all the circles that go straight up in the sky. And then he called me the next day and he said, "Did you hear anything? Did you know?" And I said, "Yes, I heard an explosion last night, a very big explosion." He goes, "Well, I seen this happen at the sacred site." So then when we called the psychic, she said she felt the energy, like the mountain shake from the sacred site. She was able to feel it in her energy. Her energy shook like she was standing there. So whatever this entity was that used this energy to go back up into outer space, it made it, Chris seen it, I heard it, she felt it. It's crazy the way the three of us are connected because the white Sasquatch told my psychic that she had to mentor Chris Reinhardt. Now, she didn't know Chris Reinhardt from a hole in the wall. She called me. She says, "Who's Chris Reinhardt?" And I was told to mentor him. And I was like, "Well, who told you to mentor Chris?" And she said, "The white Sasquatch." And I was like, "Oh, shit. Well, then you got to mentor. I got to give you Chris's number, because my psychic only deals with me and my team. She doesn't deal with anybody else. But now she's mentoring Chris. So but yeah, no, I think all of these entities, whether they're Bigfoot, Dogman, the Rake, all come from different dimensions. I also believe there are aliens that come from different dimensions, but I also believe that there are aliens that are extraterrestrial that come from different universes and different locations around the universe. Thank you, Kat.
Absolutely. And y'all, we will bring. And Chris Kramer said, "Good to see you, Al." They really
Hey,
appreciated
Chris,
this show tonight, and like I
thank
said,
you for
like it's
showing
so
up.
many different areas. And like I said, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Al.
No, I just said thanks. I'm thanking Chris for showing up tonight. That's all.
Yep. So y'all, I really appreciate y'all for showing up tonight. You are absolutely, you're absolutely right, Lockbeard. It's been ratchet. It's been ratchet. He said things in the Bigfoot world are just plain ratchet. He's telling the truth. The cryptid world. I mean, and it doesn't. The ridiculous part about it is that it doesn't have to be that way. There's enough room out there for everybody. If people just mind their own damn business, I'm sorry. Mind your business. Do your own show. Like, quit worrying about what everybody else is doing.
That's what I
Because at
do.
the end of the day, like
I just
everybody
do
has a
me.
right, and that's the way to be. Because at the end of the day, like everybody is entitled to have their own beliefs. What the shows are about, what you believe about different crypts and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, like if everybody just concentrated on their own work and left people alone, everything would be fine. But anyway, y'all. With that being said, I will have Al back on here. We'll have Al back on here. Al,
Yes,
did you want to
Chris.
say
Ley
anything real quick about
lines,
ley line, earth
ley
energies? You want to say anything about
lines,
that?
ley lines, aquifers, earth grid energies. Absolutely. Um, Crystals, quartz crystal stones. I mean, the sacred site is got all of that plus something extra that I don't want to get into now because it's, who knows who's listening, but it's got all of that and more. And it's just the energy at this location. My psychic said she's never felt it like that anywhere else that she's ever been. And she said this particular um, Halloween, it was even ramped up 10 times more than it normally is. So, yeah, it's a crazy place.
Do you still run your channel? Prince Arcane wanted to know if you still run your channel. What is
I
your
have
channel?
the Bronxville Paranormal Society. We still have a YouTube channel, but I haven't done anything in it in years because of people stealing my shit. So I even on my Facebook pages, the group page and the team page, I haven't put any reports out in years because I'm just tired of people stealing my shit. So I keep everything to myself now. I've kind of went inward with all of my stuff. Like the only person I've really given any info to is Chris because I feel like when I'm ready to walk away, I'm going to give him all my shit because he's younger than me. So he's going to take it to the next level. Like I said, when I walked in the other night and I put those 9-10 miles in, whoo, that put a hurting on this old man. You know what I mean? And I knew I still had to walk 4 miles to get back out. So 14 miles in one night is tough. Yeah.
Man of Light, Greg. I'm gonna hit you up too, probably tomorrow because I only got tired. I need to call Chris after the show. I got to hook up a couple of more people that I need to talk to. But Greg, you let me know if you didn't change your mind. Greg gets kind of shy. He don't like to do shows that much, but I'm trying to
Yeah,
get him
no,
to come
Greg's a
on.
good guy.
And
Yeah. And listen, whenever you want to call me and talk to me about that other stuff, privately, don't hesitate.
I will because actually, yeah, I definitely am because some things I can't. I get too scared. But yeah, supporting us and supporting this show tonight. Make sure y'all continue to check out the shows. This is my birthday weekend, but I plan on having another show next week. They're usually on Friday 7, but I'm kind of wishy washy here nowadays and lately. So basically, y'all, thank y'all for showing up. I appreciate each and every one of you, and y'all just keep supporting the channel. And if you didn't hit the like button tonight, make sure y'all hit the like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I appreciate every one of you. Thanks, everyone. Good night. Hold on. Stop.